We'll be starting in about 90 seconds. We're just waiting for the song to be over, and then the radio will hook up with us. When you're sitting there and you don't have any talking going on, 90 seconds is a very long time.
Fighting corruption with Anthony Greco. Fighting government corruption, the real gangsters. Stand by.
Greetings from corrupt Nye County. I am Anthony Greco, and this is my program, Fighting Government Corruption. Support for KPFF is brought to you in part by Pure Communications, an internet service provider for Pahrump and the surrounding communities. Pure Communication, 702-628-5662. And our call-in number is 775-751-2579. Okay, I just want to let people know about the Facebook page for the radio station, Godfather Vegas. We started that on January 2nd, 2019. We already have 1,174 friends. I'd like to thank them all. And we have, as of today, 103 people that follow us on a daily basis. The rest of them are in and out, but we have 103 people so far that follow us on a daily basis, and I want to thank everybody for doing that. And you could write me little emails, and we'll see what happens. But if you have any comments, you can go there. The email is godfathervegas@hotmail.com. The email for that Facebook page is godfathervegas@hotmail.com. So thanks to the 1,174 people for paying attention, and I hope you enjoy what you see on there. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about VEA, very little bit. I'm not getting involved in that. Once the cops get involved in something, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I truthfully believe, I was told that Berkowitz was on Channel 25, our local TV station, and he was talking about that before they invaded Valley Electric the other day. And I hope he didn't give up that. And I really want to know why David Berkowitz is getting involved in this. Is he trying to make a name for himself, so when he runs in 3.5 years, everybody thinks he's a nice guy, that he's trying to help the community? The only person that David Berkowitz helps is himself.
You're closer to the mic.
Okay, I'll just swing it over a little bit. Okay, that's good. So, yeah, the VEA deal, there's a lot of other people working on that, so I don't need to do it. There's no sense of overlapping. So, I will be going to the meeting just to see what's going on. I'm not going to put my input in there. So, that's about that. I'd like to talk about New York a little bit, and Governor Cuomo, who is a socialist for sure. His father was Mario Cuomo was the father. When I was in my early 20s, Mario Cuomo was the governor for, I think 3 or 4 terms. I don't think they had term limits back then. And I'll tell you what kind of wild man he was. There was a guy who was in Indiana in prison, and he was going to get executed because, Indiana still had execution there. And Mario Cuomo didn't believe in execution, so he had a warrant put out that Indiana needed to send that person back to New York to do 20 years in prison. And then after the 20 years he did in prison, they sent him back to Indiana to be executed, which I thought was a total waste of time and money. But here is the spin on the son. He believes in abortions right up until the baby is born. Okay, now here's his father back in the 70s bringing a guy in from one prison to another to save him for 20 years more of life that we're going to pay for, and his son is willing to kill off a kid right up until the time it's born. So you can see how things change. How are they going by their beliefs, or do they go by what's popular at the time? And why I say that both Cuomos, the whole family, and I think this Cuomo was married to one of the Kennedys, and she was committed adultery while they were married, so he divorced her. I was trying to look for the right word without getting thrown off the air. So Cuomo, the new Cuomo, governor of New York, calls Trump and turns around and says that New York is losing a lot of people with money. They're leaving. So Trump said, why don't you stop taxing them to death and maybe they won't leave? So what happened was Cuomo started talking about this. He says that we have taxed the rich so much that they're actually leaving our state. Now, I'm really surprised that he brought that up. So, I think the progressives, which are supposedly Democrats, I call them progressives because the Democrat Party's dead, and a progressive is a socialist, and he said that we're taxing the people and they're leaving. Now, what happened was they're going to be $3 billion shortfall on their budget because the people with the money are leaving. So now they have to figure out how they're going to keep them there. But if you're a progressive, you have to abuse people with money because they don't like people with money. You got to understand, these people in Congress, they have a lot of money. Okay, because they're allowed to do insider trading. They're allowed to vote on, like if they got a vote coming up, they'll actually go buy stock on a company they're going to do a vote on and off. So, or if they own stock already and they're going to kill off the vote, they sell their stock before time. But meanwhile, Martha Stewart went to prison for supposedly insider trading. But Congress is allowed to do that. And you have to understand how the people in power believe. It's called the ruling class. The ruling class is supposed to have everything, and then we're supposed to have nothing or just scrape by. And how the best way I describe this is, see, the ruling class, Congress, Senate, all these politicians, what they're doing is they're carrying the loaves of bread. Okay, they understand that they carry the loaves of bread. And what they do to us is we have to walk behind them and pick up the crumbs. Okay, the ruling class is supposed to have everything. They're the elite, and we're all trash bags. So remember how you got to think of Congress or Senate is they're carrying the loaves of bread, and we get the crumbs that fall out of the sacks of bread that they're carrying. And that's what they want. That's what socialism is the ruling class has everything, and then the people who give all the money to the ruling class has practically nothing. They want you to be poor so you pay attention to them. That's just the way it is. That's why all the rules and regulations they put on businesses destroy the mom and pop operation. Because the big giant corporations can afford to pay the regulation fees and the licensing fees, and if they pollute too much, they could take money and pay it because they don't care. But the mom and pop shop has to be, they have to keep their money close to the vest. They have to be more efficient and everything because they work on less money. There's a lot of people in business that make under $200,000 a year gross. So then by the time they pay all their expenses and stuff, you know, maybe they'll make between $50,000 and $75,000 a year. So that's why they have to be efficient. When I was in business and when I was out here, I used to teach people how to make more profit with the same amount of intake by being efficient. Well, government doesn't have to be efficient because they just raise everybody's taxes and they make up their shortfalls or their mistakes and everything. Because when government makes a mistake, we pay. Me, I don't pay income tax, not even federal, but we do pay tax. We pay gasoline tax. Even if you're renting, your rent pays the landlord. The landlord owns the house, and he has to pay real estate tax. So even as a renter, you're donating money to the landlord to pay his real estate tax. That's part of your rent. They don't break it down that way, but that's what's happening. So socialism doesn't work. Just look at Venezuela. And the people are starving to death, and the person who's running Venezuela now is not allowing food and medical supplies to come in there. And people are saying to themselves, like, why is this happening? You know, we'll end up starving to death. Well, if you follow politics as long as myself, which I've been doing it since I'm 16 years old and I'm 63, and 40 years ago, I remember Ted Turner, okay, CNN guy, the Turner Movie Classic Channel, he said that we need to cut the world population by 90% because we don't need all these people anymore. We don't need that much manual labor. Machines do it all, and technology. So we don't need all these people. So he actually said that this 90% of the population that we need to get rid of is using up he's pointing to himself, our resources like water, air, trees, things like that. The 90% of the, not the elitist and not the ruling class, are using up their resources. Well, it's not their resources, all of our resources. So you have to understand how these politicians are. And just look at New York again with OAC, that's Cortez is the last name. And she booted Amazon. Now, if people don't like the owner of Amazon, and the reason why Cortez doesn't like the owner of Amazon, he has too much money, and he's not the ruling class. So they have a problem with rich people because they're not rich, and they think nobody should have more money than that ruling class. Now there's your problem. That's why these people who are in power and are voted on, they want to remain the ruling class. They don't want to be me and you. They don't want that because they don't want to have to go pick up the crumbs behind the ruling class. And the reason why I keep repeating this is I want you to get it in your head that this is the way it is. And you don't have to take my word as gospel. Look it up. It's happened always. Okay, the only time the ruling class is out is when you have a revolution. And unfortunately, I look at a revolution as every 2 years when we vote in Nevada. It's not working. Okay, because you have the biggest threat to citizens of this country, state, or even here in our county, is the uninformed voter. Okay, people here tend to vote for the person with the most signs, or the name that's most well known, because they don't do their homework. And there's a lot of reasons why they don't do the homework. One is they're too busy working to support their family. The second one is we have a lot of retired people and they don't care, because they figure by the time it really gets super screwed up, they'll be dead anyway, because they're 80, 90 years old. They figure they don't care. Okay? Now, a person like me, I shouldn't care. And the reason why I shouldn't care is I don't have any kids. I don't have any grandchildren. So after I'm gone, what happens, happens. But that's not what I believe in. I believe in what the Founding Fathers gave us, and why, when I was a young person of 20 years old, I was able to start my business, because of the lack of rules and regulations. And I had a business in New York. And right now, today, a person of 20 years old in Pahrump could never start a business that I started in New York in 1976 with the rules and regulations we have here. So you see how things have turned. I was able to, in 1976, open a business in New York with very little money, because I was a worker. I was a hard worker, but I didn't need a lot of money, because there wasn't that many licensing fees and regulations that cost you money and things like that. Eventually it happened in New York, and that's when I decided that I'm not going to pay all these taxes and everything, and I'm going to not do this. And, you know, when you're starting to pay $1,800 a week for gasoline tax, it takes a bite out of the money you make. I mean, you're talking about in the early 80s, to run my business in the early 1980s, I had to do $824 a day. I had it broken down by the day. I had to take in $824 every 24 hours before I had enough money to buy myself a cup of coffee. Okay, that was my overhead. $824 a day, every day of the week, every month of the year. There was no ends, ifs, or buts. If I made less than that, I had to make it up the next day. If I did over $824, make up for the days that I didn't do the $824. Now, you're talking about $824 a day for a small business is a lot of money. Okay, but taxes were a little bit high and everything. Well, towards the end, I pretty much retired from that business in 1994. So from 76 to 94, 18 years. And the taxes and the regulations were so out of control, it wasn't worth being in business. I mean, I made money, but why was I giving all these ruling class all my hard-earned money? It wasn't worth it. I could do something else. Not there. And that was one of the reasons why I started looking about getting out of New York, and I started looking around, and my mother's cousin came out here in '89, and I decided to check it out in '97. So what I was getting through all of this is that a kid of 20 years old in Pahrump, if he wanted to open the same business I did in New York when I was 20, he can't do that here. There's too many licensing fees, too many regulations, too much zoning, just ridiculous. Okay, because we are not business friendly here. And without business, there's not enough of tax money in your real estate tax, because residential growth does not pay for itself. You have to get money elsewhere. Sales tax, people earning more and more money. And I'm surprised they're really not pushing estate income tax yet. But we'll get there. We'll get there. And then people will flee, just like California. Why is Nevada has been a fast-growing state? Well, the problem is when you're in business in California, it's almost like rape, because you're constantly being abused by the ruling class, because they need more and more money. Government is an obese, money-eating monster. and government doesn't make any money except for when the Treasury prints it because they're running out. They don't know how to earn money. The government doesn't know how to earn. They don't make anything. Okay, like I was talking to my friend Vinny because my friend just bought a pack of cigarettes. I think it was like $8. Well, in New York, a pack of cigarettes is $18. All right, now this is private industry and this is government. Okay, a pack of cigarettes in New York is $18. Now, the person who grows the tobacco, harvests it, trucks come in and pick it up, they deliver it to like a Philip Morris or somebody like that. They create it into a cigarette. They deliver it to a store to be sold. Then the store sells it. So what do we got? Like 5, 6 people? Say 5. We'll go easy on them. 5 people. All those 5 businesses make money on $2.50. The rest of the $18 is tax. Okay? Tax. So say it's $3. $18 for a pack of cigarettes, $3 for everybody, the 5 people, and then the government gets $13 for doing nothing, for allowing you to turn around and buy a pack of cigarettes, and allowing all those people to earn money on the $2.50 or $3. Okay, they're making $13 a pack. It's a sin tax. Well, if it was that bad, why would they allow you to have cigarettes? So here we get to the state of Hawaii. The state of Hawaii is not banning cigarettes, but as of next year, you can't buy it if you're under 100 years old. Listen to this psychotic stuff here. You cannot buy a pack of cigarettes next year in Hawaii unless you're 100 years old or older. So what are they telling you? They're banning cigarettes. It's that simple. But it's unconstitutional to do that, so they just regulate that you can't purchase it until you're 100. Just like when I was a kid, you could buy cigarettes and alcohol at 18. They raised it to 21. Okay, actually it was 21 in New Jersey, so all the kids used to run over the bridge, the outer bridge, into Staten Island on Friday and Saturday night so they could drink. Meanwhile, instead of driving from their local bar that was maybe 5 minutes away, they're driving an hour to get drunk, so a lot of them are getting killed going over their bridges back to New Jersey. Okay, so what they did was to stop people from getting killed. Instead of lowering it to 18 in New Jersey, they just raised New York to 21. So that's how they regulated that industry. And the whole thing about it is you can't buy a pack of cigarettes until you're 100. It's just ridiculous. Why don't you just say you're going to ban it? I mean, you're socialists anyway. We have to listen to whatever you say anyway. But they don't want to have the problem of slowing it down. So if you're 100 years old or older, well, you could buy cigarettes for the neighborhood and make a ton of money. Okay, because that's just the way it is. So, talking about New York and